So I hope you can see the PPT now. Can you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this was what we are dealing with: insecticides, disinfection, insects with respect to certain insects. Earlier in the previous chapter, we did disinfection or the chemicals used as the disinfectants in general, but this is in specific for the insects. So the different types of insects and the one belonging to the arthropod and the disease caused by them. The main control way, the environmental control, the chemical, biological, and genetic. Environmental is mainly by destroying the space reduction. The habitat is being destroyed. Chemical is by using the chemicals or the disinfectants. Biological, usually by using certain fishes. And genetic control by altering their genetic components so that they become sterile. The insecticides, contact, stomach poison, and fumigants. The different classification about DDT, all these different types. Then we went to specific insect control, what we have to do. And I think we did with mosquitoes. The four species of mosquitoes. I just did this one in detail because that's the most important thing. The larvicidal measures, anti-adult measures, and also protection against mosquito bites. So according to the in the environmental control, please do remember this. If it is the Culex mosquito, then it is we shouldn't keep the sewage and the wastewater, or we have to remove it. And Aedes mosquito, there shouldn't be any artificial water collection. And Anopheles, it should be removed by filling and drainage, mostly seen in clean waters also, and Mansonia in the aquatics. So especially attached to some pistia plant or some aquatic plants, so remove those plants. For anti-adult measures, to use the residual sprays, indoor residual indoor residual spraying. And then if it is outdoor, the space sprays, the different types of fogging, the genetic control, and then protection via using net, greening, and repellents. So I think that's where we concluded in the last class. Now we'll continue with the next set of insects which are medically important, that is the houseflies. Houseflies are the commonest and most familiar of all insects which live close to man. After two mosquitoes, perhaps it is the houseflies which is very common. They occur in abundance all the year around. And the majority of house frequenting flies, they are non-biting. And the most important ones are Musca domestica, Musca vicinia, Musca nebulo, and Musca sorbens. But usually it is the Musca domestica that we always remember of. And houseflies, they are actually not causing us any bite. They don't come and bite or menacing like that. But still, it is a menacing because personally, with just one mosquito, one housefly being present in the house, that itself is kind of irritating. They're moving about, and even mosquito, if we try to kill them with our hands, it can be easily killed. But houseflies are something that it is not easy to kill them. So even one housefly is there means we kind of feel of irritation or somehow to get rid of it. And Technically, if we see, houseflies can be regarded as a sign of insanitation, and their number as an index of insanitation. So, whenever there is a lack of sanitation, and how if we have to measure that, or to put an index number to say how much insanitized that particular area is, it is according to the number of the houseflies that is present, we can be given. So, this can be asked as a MCQ question, that among the insects, it is the house flies that is considered, their presence is considered as a sign of insanitation, and their number as an index of insanitation. In case of mosquitoes, though they cause a large number of medically important diseases, even this one also, houseflies also, but mosquitoes are not considered as sign of insanitation. It is the houseflies that is considered like that. The life history, it undergoes a metamorphosis with four stages in the life cycle. All the insects which we are going to study in this PPT will be having the same four stages: the egg stage, larval stage, or the maggot stage, pupa, and also the adult stage. Now, habit of houseflies. So this habits of houseflies is very important because some of these habits are the favoring factor by how the diseases are transmitted by the houseflies. So they have six habits. The first one is their breeding habits. The most important breeding places of flies in order of importance. So the habitat itself, it is usually the breeding habitat, that area is the fresh horse manure or manure of other animals, which means the excreta of the animals, the human excreta, the garbage or the waste disposal from our homes, the decaying fruits and vegetables, rubbish dumps containing organic matter, and ground where liquid waste are spilled. So these are their breeding habits. Then feeding habits. The housefly does not bite. It cannot eat solid food. It vomits on solid food to make a solution of it and sucks in a liquid state. Adult flies delight in sputum, feces, discharges from wounds, and also open sores. So you see in which what are the most favorable things that they would like to eat, and this one is not actually eating. They are not. They sit on our exposed food, and they are not directly eating because they can't eat their solid food. So what they do is they will be spitting something, a kind of saliva, and then that will be converting the solid food to a solution and then sucks it in a liquid state. They also so this the third one, I think it will go from to here, the vomit drop. So as we saw that when they are eating, they are not eating per se, but they are dropping something or vomiting something that by which the solid food is converted into a liquid nature, like for them to suck only that much quantity. So this constant vomit dropping is done by them. The fly vomits frequently, and when they are vomiting that particular thing, what they are vomiting, the vomitus, it will be often a culture of disease agents, means all the disease causing organisms will be present in that vomitus. Then along with that vomiting, they also do very frequent defecation. The housefly has the habit of defecating constantly all the day. Thus, even in the stool, if the vomit is also having the disease causing organisms, then definitely the stool that is coming out of the houseflies, that also will be containing countless bacteria. So even that will be coming and falling on the exposed food. Then they are highly restless organisms. So it is very restless and move back and forth between food and filth. So this helps the spread of the infection mechanically. And lastly, it is the dispersal because the houseflies can travel longer distance. Usually they remain close to their breeding places, but they disperse frequently up to 4 miles and sometimes even more from the point of origin. So these habits and the habitat of the houseflies make them very much um possible to cause the disease or to transmit the diseases. So out of those things, whatever the habits we mentioned about, the most important things which help in the transmission of diseases, first one, their constant movement, their restlessness. So because they are constantly moving, and whenever they are moving between the food and the filth you can read as a garbage or the excreta or whatever, they transport the microorganisms, the ova, the cyst on their feet and hairy legs. So houseflies are therefore called as porters of infection. This also you can expect as a MCQ. So in the previous slide we saw that houseflies are actually spreading the disease mechanically, and here we say that see that houseflies are also called as porters of infection because they are carrying the organisms, the disease causing organisms, the ova, the cyst, etc. Not inside. Inside also there is inside when they do the vomiting and the defecation, but also externally on their feet and hairy legs. So when they come and sit on the exposed foot, from that external, they are actually transmitting the organisms over and cyst on their feet, on the foot. Now, we didn't do the protozoal or parasitic diseases now, but in the practice of medicine, we have already done that. We have seen all the parasitic diseases, entamoeba, then schistosomiasis, the tapeworm diseases, whichever we have done. You might be remembering that the organism will be actually the parasites, the organism will be actually excreted out via the stool, and that will be in the form of a cyst or the ova. So when they go, these houseflies, when they go and sitting in the feces, it is the ova and the cyst that get collected on their feet and hairy legs, and then they act as porters of infection. Then, as I already told, the vomit drop, because they are not able to eat the food and they have to convert it into liquid. They always do some the vomit drop or a vomitus, which is very rich in bacterial culture. And by its habits of frequent vomiting, the housefly infects food and thereby transmit the disease. Then the defecation also. Now, how to control the fly? We can go for the same principles, the four principles, the environmental control. So that will be the first one, the space reduction. The best way will be to eliminate the breeding places. So environmental control, when you are writing about any insects, the first one will be about the space reduction. What are their habitat, and to remove them or to make that area clean, so that even they don't have a habitat to breed or to flourish. So earlier we saw what are the main habitat, all the garbages, organic waste, fruits, vegetables that is getting decayed, the filth, feces, etc. So how to do that is storing garbage, kitchen waste and other refuse in bins with tight lids. Never to keep it open for long, or never to keep it open, but it will should be always kept in bins, that also with tight lids. And it shouldn't be kept for long, pending disposal, as because if it is organic waste materials or food materials that is present, it should be cleared from the house as early as possible. Not just from the house, even if it is getting accumulated in some um, uh, waste disposal area, a common waste disposal area, that also should be cleared regularly. There should be efficient collection, removal and disposal of refuse, and that can be done by incineration, burning it off, composting, that is depositing it under the soil, or even the sanitary landfill. This is usually done in case of a large quantity of disposal. Provision of sanitary latrines, example, septic tanks, water seal latrines, and sanitary system. So the septic tanks, water seal latrines, we'll see in the next chapter what are those. But the thing is, we have to provide sanitary latrines, which means there shouldn't be any open air defecation. The feces, the human excreta shouldn't be present in the open environment. People should be using the sanitary latrines so that the feces are is properly disposed and it's not exposed. So this one, the stopping open air defecation, even the sanitary disposal of animal excreta, stepping up general sanitation, the hygiene, because we saw that they are actually called or they are actually a sign of insanitation. So increase that general sanitation or hygiene. A clean house with clean surroundings is the best answer to the housefly problem. Then the second one is insecticidal controls, where we will be using some sprays. The residual sprays, this Musca domestica, which is very commonly seen in our houses, it is resistant to DDT since 1948. So it is also resistant to organochlorine compounds, organophosphorus, and carbamate pesticides. So almost all the insecticides they are actually very resistant. But the susceptible flies can be killed by DDT 5%, methoxychlor 5%, lintane 0.5%, and so on. uh, I have just put the name of the chemicals or the insecticides with the concentration and also the way on how to apply it, like 5 liters per 100 square meters of surface. But I don't want you to study this or by heart this. You can just remember, for the exam, if not all, just remember at least DDT, Linden, because it will be always seen in other insecticides also. So just find out something that is that which you can remember for namesake, just to put example, two examples. So just remember that, not the concentration also, just remember DDT is something that you can remember so easily, and that will be said in all the insecticides. So other than that, another one also you may select, but not this concentration and the concentration or the mode of application. I don't want you to just by heart it. But in the residual sprays, remember this sentence: the addition of sugar to insecticidal formulation enhances their effectiveness. Try to remember this particular sentence. Then we can use certain kind of baits, something like this, the fly trap, the disposable one, and of course I'm showing some company things because when I Google what I got the first picture, I just put it. It is not any kind of endorsement. We can use baits, the poison baits containing 1 or 2 percentage diazinon, malathion, dichlorobose, ronel, and dimethovate. They have been tried with success, but that is chemical. Even we can make by 3 teaspoons of commercial formalin with 1 pint of water or milk, to which a little sugar is added. So we can make in our own house a bait. There can be also cord and ribbons that can be used. The cords and strips impregnated with diazinon, fenthion, or dimethovate have been tried with success. They are hung like festoons from ceilings, and their period of effectiveness ranges from 1 to 6 months, like this. So that also we can buy from certain companies. So it can be hung in our house for 6 months. It says that it will give protection from the house flies. Then we can go for the space spray, especially if it is outside the externally, containing pyrethrin, DDT, or HCH. Space sprays is general, have little or no residual action. Consequently, repeated applications are necessary. Then lastly is the larvicides, such as diazinon, dichlorobose, dimethovate, applied at the rate of 28 to 56 liters per 100 square meters, uh, especially to destroy the larva. Then another one is fly paper. Fly paper is something another DIY that which we can make by our own. So we make the sticky fly papers and that is made by mixing 2 pounds of resin, 1 pint of castor oil, which should be heated together until the mixture resembles molasses. This should be smeared on paper by using an ordinary paintbrush while it is still hot. The adhesive mixture can also be applied to strips of wire and hung up in places where flies abound. Although slight reduction of flies may occur, no lasting benefits. So, something that is organically made. These beads, the cords and ribbons, everything that is chemically. So, in case some environmental friendly houses, they really don't want to use any insecticides, then we can go for the fly papers in which we are using actually castor oil and resin. And then when it becomes thick like a molasses, when it is heated, while heated, just to smear it on those fly papers and leave it like that. But it doesn't have any lasting benefit. Then protection against flies, we can use like the mosquito screens. The same screens can protect us from the flies also. The screening of houses, hospital, food markets, restaurants, and other similar establishments give considerable relief from houseflies. And health education is very must because we have seen that it is a indication of insanitation or lack of hygiene. And if we want to keep a place clean, hygienic, sanitized, then it should be a mass effect, or all the people should come together. A mass effort should be there. It is not actually one person can decide to keep the complete area sanitized. So health education is very much important because we need the cooperation of people. So fly control campaigns require organized individual and also community efforts. For that, health education is very essential. Next, the sand flies. Oh, yeah. For the house flies, we have already discussed what are the different diseases caused by the house flies in the initial slides. Mostly the GIT disorders, dysenteries, diarrhea, etc., is being caused by the house flies. So the next third type of insect is the sandflies. The sandflies are small insects, light or dark brown in color, smaller than mosquitoes, and the most important ones are Phlebotomus argentipus, Phlebotomus papataceae, and Phlebotomus sargenti. I don't want you people to remember this or by heart this, but at least remember the second other name of the sandflies, that is Phlebotomus. The other name is the scientific name. So sometimes for the MCQ, the name may be changed, like the disease that is caused by the Phlebotomus variety. That like that it can be asked. So you should know that the sandflies, its scientific name is actually the Phlebotomus. You don't have to remember the three specific species. So these sandflies also, they have that four metamorphic stages: the egg, larva, pupa, and adult. And the disease transmitted, the Phlebotomus argentipus, that is the disease is Kala Azar. Phlebotomus papataceae, the sandfly fever or the oriental sore, and Phlebotomus sargenti, it is the oriental sore. But just remember the phlebotomus, especially the argentipus variety, which causes the disease Kala Azar. So the sandflies are the vectors of Kala Azar or the Phlebotomus argentipus. So their habitat, sandflies are troublesome nocturnal pests. Nocturnal pests means they are going to attack the human being only at night, not in the daytime. The bite is very irritating and painful, while their presence is scarcely observed. Why it is scarcely observed? One thing, it is nocturnal, it will come out only in the night, and then they are very smaller than mosquitoes. So imagine the size. So that is why their presence is scarcely observed. In the morning time, what they do is they go and hide in very small crevices, like in the holes, the crevices in walls, holes that is seen inside the trees, dark room, stable, and storeroom, so that we don't usually can see this sandflies. They will be hiding in some small crevices, small gaps in the trees or the dark rooms in the morning. At that time, they don't bite at all, but they will come out only in the night to cause the bite. And because it is very much similar, like dark brown in color and smaller than mosquitoes, it is very difficult to see them, and they causes the disease Kala Azar. The females alone will bite in the Kala Azar group. The sandflies are incapable of flying over long distances. They merely hop about from one place to another. Sandflies are generally confined to within 50 yards of their breeding places. Now, I changed the color over here because this point is very important. So, we see that the sandflies, they can only hop and hop on movements they can do, not that they are flying for a longer distance. Maximum they will be seen is 50 yards, which is very short distance in a nearby or around a nearby to that breeding place itself. They will be seen, which means if we are able to spot their presence, then their destruction of breeding place is very easy. And once it is done, we can control the disease very effectively, because in case of mosquitoes and houseflies, we see that they can travel a long distance from their breeding places. So even if we do the space reduction, if the organisms, these insects, they are traveling to a larger distance, a wider distance, the space reduction we done at one particular area is not enough. It has to be done widespread. But in case of sandflies, because they are not moving for a longer distance, just hop on moments, and also within and or in and around that area of habitat, it is very easy for us to destroy their breeding places. Thereby we can target effective control measures for the disease, especially the Kala Azar. And how we can control, as I told, that they are easily controlled because they do not move long distances from the place of breeding. So, starting with insecticides, up to now they have not shown any resistance to DDT. So, we can continue use DDT for them. 1 to 2 gram per meter squared of DDT or 0.24 gram per meter squared of lindane. That has been found effective in reducing sandflies. But in case of DDT, it will be remaining effective. The residual action will be there for at least a period of 1 to 2 years, and lindane only for a period of 3 months. So DDT, because of its cost effectiveness or its longer residual thing, we will be preferring to use DDT. But that can cause, as I told in the previous classes, that itself can cause various environmental troubles. But if it is lindane that we are using, though the quantity used is very less, but the residual action is very less, so that a frequent repetition will be required. The spraying should be done in the human dwellings and also cattle shed, because we saw that they are mainly residing in the stable, dark rooms, etc. Then sanitation measures such as removal of shrubs and vegetations within 50 yards of human dwellings, filling up cracks and crevices in walls and floors, and location of cattle sheds and poultry houses at a fair distance from human habitation should receive attention. So this is the general sanitation measure, completely based on their breeding area, because we have seen they are not traveling for a longer distance. So when we spot out their presence within that 50-meter itself or 50 yards itself, we should be doing the necessary sanitary measures, removing the shrubs or vegetations, filling up the cracks and crevices, and also a minimum or a fair distance to be kept between the domestic animal or the cattle sheds and the house. The next one is CC flies. Another name for that is the Glossina. Uh, they causes the sleeping sickness. They are the sucking flies which present a general resemblance to the common housefly. CC flies are only found in African continent, and region infested with CC flies are also called as fly bells. Remember this sentence for MCQ purpose. The CC flies lives less than 100 days. And four species are very much dangerous to man. You don't have to by heart this. It will be Glossina palpalis, Glossina tachinoides, Glossina mossitans, and Glossina pallidipes. The first two species, that is Palpalis and Tachinoids, it is usually seen near to the woodland vegetation near to the rivers, and hence it is called as riverine species. And the last two, Morsitans and Pallidipes, they are called as savanna species because they prefer to live and breed in the woodland vegetation in the savanna country. It is mostly greenery, I think. The Greenland, that is savanna. So the two species are riverine and two species are savanna species. But I'm not going to ask you like that. So you don't have to remember which are the things or which are the uh, Glossina species that is seen near to the river vegetation and which is seen near to the savanna vegetation. But remember, they have such a habitat difference. So if we are going to destroy them, we need to concentrate on that particular breeding place. Because the riverine species, that is Pathalis and Tachinoids, they have a distinct attraction to the man, not the savanna species. So if at all we are going for a space reduction, the environmental control for the Glucina, the CC variety, we need to destroy the vegetations in and nearby the rivers. Sissy flies attack man, not just man, the animals, the domestic animals, and also the wild animals. They have used the term wild game for over here, which indicates wild animals in general. So, wild game of all kinds, birds, lizards, snakes, etc. Both the sexes will bite, and that too during day. So, totally different from the sandflies. Sandflies, we saw only the females are biting, and that too in the night. And in case of sissy fly or the glossina, they are biting in the morning time, and both sexes are biting. The sissy fly, this is very interesting. They actually rarely enter houses. So they are not biting inside the house. They are not trouble indoor, but actually outdoor. What they do is they are known to follow travelers both by road and rail for considerable distance in order to obtain a blood meal. So they are not flying, but they are ready to follow the travelers. So mostly will be seen in not so sanitized trains, um, or very much crowded vehicles. We'll be seeing them mostly in those in, unhygienic vehicles or the trains. And then there is travel a considerable distance and biting the travelers over there. They are the vectors of the trypanosomiasis or the sleeping sickness, which can affect man and also domestic animals. Then the control of CC flies can use the insecticides, especially DDT and dieldrin, because the resistance to insecticides has not been reported in case of Glossina. And remember, the Glossina variety of the CC flies are usually seen only within the African continent. So the resistance have not yet developed to the general insecticides. Um, the insecticide is applied from aircraft when large areas are to be covered quickly. Then clearing of vegetations. Clearing of vegetation where CC flies live and breed is now the technique most widely adopted for controlling CC flies. Used alone, this method gives slow results, so better to use it with other methods, especially the insecticides, give a speedy reduction of the flies. Then there is game destruction. Game destruction, the term seems to be confusing, but I didn't want to change the term because I wanted to introduce this term to you. So, as I told, the wild game, the term indicates wild animals, and game destruction means to destroy that when they have seen that the habitat of this or the breeding place of this Glossina, it can be even the wild animals. Earlier, in case of Africa, what they used to do is they used to clear up larger tracts of Africa or the larger forest area of the Africa to control or to clear the CC flies by the destruction of the wild game. Even vegetation in the Africa, the vegetation or the forest area were cut down, and also the wild animals were uh, poached so that to destroy this uh, flies, the CC flies. But nowadays they don't do this method because that is causing destruction to the nature, because a lot of trees are being cut down and also animals being poached. So now they don't do this. But remember this term. I mean, when I say you the whole process, this is very common thing. We can put in our own term. But game destruction or the wild game, remember that it is the wild animals that they are mentioning about, and game destruction is that clearing of that forest area, and also clear along with that poaching the animals, wild animals, that is game destruction. Then the genetic control can be done, especially to make them sterile. The sterile male release is what they continue to use. The next variety is black flies or Simulidae. They are small, robust flies with short, stout legs and often black in color. And they are actually vectors of onchocerciasis. And this disease is usually seen in Africa, Mexico, Central and South America. They suck blood of domestic animals and also of man. Now, their habitat is very important over here because that is how we are going to destroy this organism environmentally. In case of black flies, the eggs are laid on submerged stones and water weeds. So, all the other organisms except the mosquitoes, whatever we discussed, the house flies, sand flies, CC flies, everything was seen in some or the other vegetation or inside the house or the crevices, or sometimes following the travelers. But in this case, the black fly is similar to the mosquitoes. The eggs are laid on submerged stones and also water weeds. Not exactly to the mosquitoes also, but it's also it means it is in the aquatic area. These organisms are usually the breeding or the habitat is. The larvae are aquatic. They fix themselves to stones or plants, usually at a depth of 1 foot. Control of the adult fly is very difficult because once it undergoes metamorphosis, the larvae, and then it becomes the adult one, then it is going to fly a very large distance, even like up to 100 miles. So if we have to destroy this organism, it is better that we destroy it in the aquatic level itself, so that even in the larval stage. So in case of black flies, more than the importance given for a anti-adult measure, it is better to go for a anti-larval measure. So the attack is leveled at the larvae. A bait is used which kills the black fly larvae without causing harmful effects to mammals or other aquatic fauna. Because here we have to use the insecticides on the water, I mean the water collection. The safer one to use is actually a bait. It is added to river water in weekly doses of 0.05 to zero point 0.1 milligram per liter over a period of 10 minutes. So remember in case of black flies or the other name is Simulidae, and they are actually causing the disease onchocerciasis or the river blindness. And this one, the egg and the larval stage, it is seen in the water bodies or the aquatic level. But once it becomes adult, they are able to fly even 100 miles. So it is not worthy to, or it is not possible to control them once they have become adults. So better to control it in the water body level itself when they are just larvae or even the egg stage. The next one is lice. They are small wingless ectoparasites. They bite very severely and are very annoying also. So the lice that infest man are of three kinds. One that is found on the head, which is called as Pediculus capitis, the body louse, which is Pediculus corporis, and pubic or crab louse, which is Thyrus pubis. And now this you should remember for MCQ purpose, and it shouldn't be that difficult because This you already might have learned the three different varieties whenever you learned in practice of medicine. So human lice occur in all parts of the world wherever standards of hygiene is low. So when we say that mosquitoes are actually signs or index of insanitation, lice is another indication about the low standard of hygiene, especially the personal hygiene, because these lice are seen in human body or the domestic animal on their body. So it is more than the environmental. Environmental also a factor, but the personal hygiene matters more. Um, all the people will be usually affected by attack of lice, but people in colder climates are affected more frequently than those in warmer region. Infestation by lice is also called as pediculosis. They have three stages in the life history: the egg or the nits, the larva, and adult. And the adult lice lives from 30 to 50 days. And how they are disseminated, transferred from one person to another. It can be a direct contact or indirect contact. Direct contact, if we are coming into direct contact with a person who is much infested with the lice, then there is a probability that it gets transferred to our body also, especially by close contact. Even when we are lying down, especially kids when they have this sleepover, one of the kid, it, she may not be having lice on her hair, but the friend may have, and the next day we can see, because if they are lying so close to each other, definitely it is going to fly from head to head or just move along with the pillow, because it is a very short distance. And next day after the sleepover, we could see 1 or 2 days later that even the child who didn't have lice on their head will be now starting to itch. So direct contact is a very important way by which the louse or the lice is disseminated. Overcrowding is another method where it is transferred from one person to another. Can be also by indirect contact by using the same clothing, the bedding, combs, or brushes. Lice also will be blown off by puffs of wind from heavily infested persons. Lice tends to leave the host whose temperature rises above or falls below the normal. The crab louse or the pubic louse, that is Styrus pubis, is generally found in pubic and perineal region, but sometimes it can be present in other parts of the body as well. Now, what are the diseases they are causing? Not they are causing, they are actually carrying the organisms which cause that particular disease. They are actually the vectors. So the louse, they carry these organisms, the Rickettsia prowazaki, which causes epidemic typhus, Borrelia recurrentis, which causes the relapsing fever, Rickettsia quintana, which causes the trench fever, and even dermatitis, especially when we are going to scratch continuously because of the presence of lice and secondary infection, even dermatitis can be caused. So these are the disease caused by the lice, not that lice are not the disease causing agents. They are just acting as the vectors for these disease causing agents. Now, control of lice. Uh, Insecticidal control is actually the best means or the only means at present for the control of lice. For head and crab lice, we can use a lotion containing 0.5% malathion. The lotion should be left for 12 to 24 hours when the hair can be washed. Malathion will kill lice and also that egg stage, the nits. Dust containing carbaryl is also effective as louse powder. Then there is body lice. A powder containing 1% malathion or carbaryl has to be used. The powder is applied to the inner surface of the clothing as well as socks and the body of the persons. And then there was a process called as mass delousing. I have kept you, given you one link. You can watch it later. Because when I was just googling, I saw this video was maybe from a movie. I'm not sure, just a small clip on doing this mass delousing, where the people they spray some kind of chemicals on them on the key areas. Uh, so large number of people This mass delousing is carried out with hand operated dusters. The powder will be blown down the neck of the shirt, up the sleeves, and into the loosened trousers from several angles. With this type of treatment, the clothing is not removed, and about 50 gram or 2 ounce of the insecticidal powder is required for one person. Normally, a single application will eradicate an infestation, but a second application may be made in 7 days to kill late hatching lice. Later, you can see this video. Then so after to the insecticidal control, the best method will be the personal hygiene. Lice cannot survive in communities where people regularly bath, change, and launder their clothes. Women with long hair should wash and clean their hair frequently. Clothing, towels, sheet, etc. should be washed in hot water and soap and pressed with hot iron. Autoclaving of clothes and bedding in steam sterilizers may be required for body loss control. So personal hygiene, its maintenance is very much important to control the lice. And another best or the only best method we could say other than the hygiene is insecticidal control. Mostly the carbaryl and also malathion. The next in the list is fleas. They are also blood-sucking ectoparasites like the lice, biting the mammals and also the birds also. The fleas found on one particular kind of animal host will not usually seek the blood of another species of animal. Usually they are species specific unless they are compelled by necessity. The fleas of importance in public health are the rat fleas, the human fleas, and the sand fleas. Among this, mostly please do remember the rat fleas because it is going to cause the disease plague. The rat fleas, otherwise it is also called as Synopsilla chiopis, Synopsilla astia. Forget it. Just remember the rat flea, uh, which is the Synopsilla chiopis variety. Then human fleas are also called as Pulex irritans. Then dogs and cat fleas are there. I don't want you to remember this. Then sand fleas, Tunga penetrans, because MCQ may be asked from this. They are also called as the sand fleas are also called as jigger or chigo fleas. So when we go to their habitat, it is, as I already told, the rat fleas are more important among all the other fleas that we have mentioned because they are the vectors of plague and also typhus. The human flea, that is the Pulex irritans, has a wide host range. Though the name is human fleas, it is not only seen in the human beings, it can infest rats, pig, cat, dogs, foxes. Uh, and mostly it is not the infestation, they are actually having a commensal relation. That is, both the animal and this particular flea are getting benefited. That is the commensal relationship. The cat and dog fleas, they occur almost everywhere, but also seen in another animals. The sand flea, Tunga penetrans, occur in the tropical regions of Africa and America. They also go through four stages in the life history. Fleas are found on their normal host and in the nest, burrow, and layers of their host. They are also uh, found in the dwellings on the ground, in cracks and crevices, and under carpets. Both the sexes bite and suck the blood. The fleas cannot fly. They are passively transported by their host itself, by some vehicles, the transport vehicle, humans, uh, when they are moving or in the luggage, and the movement of goods like grain, raw cotton, gunny bags, rags, hides, etc. in ships where there is no hygiene that is maintained. So that is how they are getting widespread from one area to another. Now there are certain terms over here which is called as flea indices. I'm not planning to ask you any question based on this, but I just wanted to keep this thing for your information. There's some index or the plural indices in case of fleas. So we have general flea index, we have specific flea index, percentage incidence of flea species, and rodent infestation rate. So we'll just see what each term means. So general flea index means The average number of fleas of all species present per rodent. So, what is the average number of all the fleas that is present per rat? That is the general flea index. But if we are going to now, this is the average number of all the fleas of all species. If we are going for a specific species, what is the average number of that particular specific species of a flea present per rodent, then we call it as a specific flea index. So among this, the most important will be Synopsilla chiopis because it is the one, as I told you, among the fleas, please to remember the rat fleas because they cause the disease plague. So in a particular area where especially these diseases are endemic, um, in case the fleas that index that is if it is increasing, then that is a kind of alarm actually. So in case of specifically flea index, it is the average number of fleas of specific species found per rodent. Then percentage incidence of flea species. Here in both the general flea index and specific flea index, we have taken the average number. And if we are going to consider the percentage of fleas, then it is called as percentage incidence of flea species. Then we have the rodent infestation rate. It is the percentage of rodents. All the three were mentioning about the number, average number, or the percentage of the fleas per rodent. Now, if it is the percentage of rodents infested with various flea species, we call it as rodent infestation rate. So, I repeat, you don't have to remember this or by heart it, but just remember in case of fleas, there are certain index. These indices actually they are regularly calculated. They are watched for, especially the Synopsilla chiopis, because it is the rat flea which can cause plague. So this one might be more important. So just to introduce the term only, I told these indices are the flea indices serve as useful indicators of the potential explosiveness of the situation should a plague outbreak occur in an endemic area. Among that, the specific flea index is more important than overall flea index. Fleas are known to transmit the following diseases, mainly the plague. We saw that the endemic or murine typhus, tuberculosis, and also Hymenopilus diminuta. So, in case I ask you the question about the plague, then even if you don't mention all those things, doesn't matter. But just give importance that in case of rat fleas, there are certain indices and the exponential increase of specific flea index. You don't have to mention what is specific flea index. The exponential increase in case of specific flea index has to be watched with caution as they can cause plague. Is to remember to write like that. Now, how to control the fleas? Insecticidal control, which is the cheapest and most widely used, that is the 10% DDT dust. As the rodents, they pass over that dust, they pick it up on their fur, where it kills the fleas. In a number of plague areas where it is endemic, where there is resistance to DDT and or to gamma HCH, malathion 5% is proved effective. The spray should be applied to floors and walls up to a height of about 1 feet. The insecticidal dust should also be blown into the rodent's burrow at about 30 gram per burrow. Then repellents. Diethyl toluamide is an efficient flea repellent. Clothing impregnated with diethyl toluamide repels fleas for more than a week. Benzyl benzoate is also a good flea repellent, especially advisable to use when we are reaching in a area where the fleas its presence is very much high. Rodent control is another method of controlling the fleas because the flea control should be followed by the rodent control. The next one in the category is redwood bugs, which is causing the Chagas disease in Mexico and Central and South America. These bugs live exclusively on the blood of animals and they can transmit the Trypanosoma cruzi, the causative agents of the Chagas disease or African, no, not African, American sleeping sickness. Redwood bugs live in cracks, fissures, and other hiding places in walls and ceilings of human dwellings. They emerge only to feed and then retreat into their hiding places. It is usually seen in areas where the housing is very primitive because, as we see, they hide in walls, the cracks, fissures, ceilings of human dwellings. So, if the house is in a dilapidated condition or in a very primitive uh, building type, then we see the presence of redwood bugs. The residual spraying with HCH or dieldrin is commonly used for the control of these bugs. Now we have the ticks and mites. They are usually, it is the largest and most important order of the phylum Arthropod. The order to which ticks and mites belong is actually called as Acarina or Acarinidae. They are ectoparasites of vertebrate animals and they all suck blood. So in case of ticks, we have two kind of ticks. You might be already knowing the soft ticks and the hard ticks. So the hard ticks, the set of diseases that is transmitted by them, at least try to remember, memorize a few of it. And for soft ticks, there is mainly Q fever and relapsing fever. This may be asked for the MCQ thing. So hard ticks are also called as Ixodidae and soft ticks are also called as Ergacidae and the different types of disease caused by them. Now, there is some anatomical difference and physiological difference between hard ticks and soft ticks. The hard ticks feed both day and night and they cannot stand starvation, whereas soft ticks they feed only at night and they can withstand starvation for several months. The hard ticks are always found on their host, whereas the soft ticks hide in cracks and crevices during the day and emerge only at night because we saw that they are mainly feeding at night. Hard ticks infest mainly on domestic animals such as dogs and cattle, and they are the varieties Dermacenta, Haemophysalis, Aloma, Rhipicephalus, and Buphyllus. I don't want you to remember this, no. But the soft tick of medical importance is Ornithodorus mobata, which transmits relapsing fever. Uh, just remember this term, Ornithodorus. Ornithodorus is actually soft tick. Remember that. And Haemophysalis, among the other, all the other things, I don't want you to remember. Remember this Haemophysalis. Haemophysalis is the hard tick. You can remember like HH. Hard tick, Haemophysalis. And soft tick, Ornithodorus. So OO like that you can try to remember. So because it will be usually asked in MCQ only, so you can make a mnemonic like that or some connection like that to remember. Then mites, which are also called as chiggers. There are different types of mites over here. They resemble ticks in their general appearance. From the public health standpoint, two mites are very important: the trombiculate mite and the itch mite. The trombiculate mite, the important species are Leptotrombidium deliens and Leptotrombidium agamushi, which are vectors of scrub typhus. You don't have to remember the complete name, but remember the trombiculate mites, which are scientifically called as Leptotrombidium. They actually transmit or they are vectors of the disease of scrub typhus. Then itch mite, which obviously, or of course, I'm very sure you might be knowing, which causes the scabies. So the discovery of itch mite in 1687 marks scabies as the first disease of man with non-cause. The itch mite is also called as Sarcoptes scabi or Acarus scabi. Sometimes may be asked for MCQ. The female parasite burrows into the epidermis where it breathes and causes scabies or itch. This will be the infection looking like. How it is spread, the scabies or the itch mite? Obviously by close contact with the infested person. This is often due to sleeping in the same bed or by children playing with each other or nursing an infested person, nursing or taking care of an infested person. Because of close contact, the disease tends to spread throughout the family. Hence, scabies is therefore called as a familial or household infection. Important as a MCQ. So, in case of treatment of scabies, if some patient is coming to you and you understand it is scabies, uh, and do remember that it is a familial disease. So, you shouldn't target the treatment only to that particular person. The whole family should be targeted. Then only it will be effective. It can be also coming by indirect contact, that is the contaminated clothes or even the beddings. So how to control? The insecticidal control can use DDT, chlordane, dieldrin. Either dusting or spray formulations can be employed. In case of environmental control, all the cracks, crevices, especially in the buildings parts, should be filled up. Animal hosts such as wild rodents and dogs should be, their number should be reduced. Then protection of workers, exposed workers should be encouraged to wear protective clothing impregnated with an insect repellent, and also they are advised to check their body frequently. When they say the persons working in tick infested area, they are trained to examine themselves, and every day during their lunch time they have to check their body, and also at the end of the work. So, which means one, if the ticks are entering on the body, it will be so small to see also, but it shouldn't remain for a long time. That is why the same or the single day, all these people who are working in much tick infested area, they are advised to examine their body twice per day. One is at the lunch time and also at the end of the work, so that these can be removed promptly from the body. The repellents can also be used, mainly indolone, diethyltoluamide, and benzyl benzoate. The same thing that is used against the louse or the lice. So, how to examine themselves? This is achieved by painting the tick with petrol paraffin or a camel hairbrush, with which the dead tick can be brushed off the skin. It may be necessary to extract the head gently with forceps, and in that event, care should be taken not to break the mouth parts. So, this is how they are trained to examine themselves, not just checking the body like this, but actually because it will be so small. So, they it's actually saying that the brush should be dipped in some petrol paraffin and then applied on the body. So, if there is some tick, it get painted so that we can spot it out very easily and then to remove. I tried like checking for a video showing how to do this examination in YouTube, but I didn't get anything. So maybe we just imagine this is how it is being done. Now, I think this is the last one, the cyclops or the water flea. It's a crustacean present in the most collections of fresh water. The average life of a cyclop is about 3 months, and it's very important because it causes the disease, the dracunculiasis or the guinea worm disease. And this you might be remembering, because dracunculiasis, it is now on the verge of not extinction, eradication, we can say. It is mainly when the man acquires infestation by drinking water containing the infected cyclops. Then cyclops is also one of the intermediate hosts for the fish tapeworm, the Diphyllobothrium lactum. But do mainly remember, even, I mean, I wouldn't say you to forget Diphyllobothrium lactum, but among the two, the most important disease which is being transmitted by cyclops will be dracunculiasis or the guinea worm disease. So the control of cyclops is also very necessary, but it is very easy to do also. There is no need of much insecticides. It can be done by physical, chemical, or biological methods. In physical methods, a mere boiling or even just straining of water through a piece of fine cloth, that is enough. That much is enough to remove the cyclops, or even boiling. That is boiling the water at 60 degrees Celsius, then also the cyclops can be readily killed. In this one, in the straining method, the cyclops are not actually killed, but they are screened out or strained out from that water. So the physical methods are very useful for individual prophylaxis, but we do have the chemical methods in which chlorine is used. We can use chlorine to chlorinate the water, which can destroy the cyclops and larvae of the guinea worm in a strength of 5 parts per million. This high concentration of chlorine gives an objectionable smell and taste to drinking water. So we have to use some other method by which this excessive chlorine can be removed, or some dechlorinating agent should be used. So the best thing is to use abate. So remember this in the MCQ. Abate or abate 0 sorry, abate OMS 786. Even if you don't remember OMS, it's okay, but remember abate. And the quantity of abate that has to be used is 1 milligram per liter. Uh, so for the control of cyclops, among the chemical methods, we do have the chlorination, but chlorination is 5 parts per million. But because it will be imparting the water a particular or objectionable or the characteristic chlorine smell and taste, it is always ideal to use abate at the concentration of 1 milligram per liter to destroy this cyclops. Then lime is also seen at a dosage of 4 gram per gallon of water, but do remember abate only and also the concentration. Then biological, the small fish, the barbel fish, gambusia fish, they have found to feed on cyclops. So we can use them also. But the most satisfactory and permanent method to control cyclops will be to provide sanitary water or piped water supply via the tube well. Abolition of step wells and provision of sanitary wells should receive attention in rural areas. The next PPT we are going to do with this, the tube well, the step well, the sanitary wells, etc. But because in the earlier time when dracunculiasis was existing, it was mainly because of the step wells. There were wells which were constructed in which people can go, like via the steps, they can go to the bottom of that well and then collect water directly. So they used to wash their feet also. So if the person is infected with dracunculiasis, there will be infection that will be seen on their feet. And it is from that, we have already discussed this in dracunculiasis, that will be bursting in water. And if it bursts, this blister will be completely filled with the organism which can cause the guinea worm disease. So now there is the abolition of the step wells and also provision of the sanitary wells so that the guinea worm or the dracunculiasis is reducing. This is the step well. So earlier, this was a wide practice to use step wells. So people will be coming and then very close contact with the water. So infected persons, they were readily spreading the disease to other people. So thereby we end the chapter. We have seen the insecticides, DDT, malathion, HCH, so many things, disinfection, especially with regard to the insects and the insect control, each insect to be controlled. There's some quiz time, but I address you to later. We'll conclude, we'll stop it over here, this section.
Miss, will our midsem be covering this chapter as well?
Do you want me to cover or no? Leave it to your choice.
Um, I would say no. What about the others?
So let the others say your wish, your choice. Because I have not yet done the question paper, I'll be doing it tomorrow only. It's a midterm, so not much work is required.
Seniors.
Yeah, so maybe it's until chapter 4. I think so far Dr. Mira has covered chapter 1, 2, um,
Three, four,
3,
five.
4, and 15, right? The 15 also homeopathic prophylaxis.
Mm.
Yeah,
We
you
have
can hear me,
done,
right?
yeah, we have done 1, 2, 3, 4, half of 5
Yeah, and 15.
and 15. This is more than enough for uh, this one, midterm.
So 5 you not included.
You want me to include?
No
Little
need.
mother told she doesn't
Leave it for
want to. I'm asking your opinion.
leave it for final, or else final too little to test.
I know we have a lot more points.
Yeah,
Okay, because anyway, I won't be putting. I was just joking. Because it's also not possible. Like, I'm not. We'll just do with 1, 2, 3, 4, and half of 5, and also 15.
half of 5 until when?
Until what we until mosquitoes
Until what we did.
last class. Until mosquitoes, not the
Mosquito.
portion we did today.
Oh, the one that before.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, no, almost.
Yeah. I'm very familiar with shishi fly now. I keep I keep seeing shishi fly.
I was thinking about you, Lenny, when I was taking these insects.
Yeah, I know.
How good.
It's good. Yeah, something good.
Did you see the PPT?
Yes.
Okay, so we directly go to the section 7, which is about the water supplies, because I want to complete the environmental health, as I told you. So, under water supplies, we have what are the different sources of water supply, what are the uses of water, which is pretty obvious, but still, the impurities that is present in the water, the purification process, the public water supplies in urban and rural areas of Malaysia, the standard of drinking water, and why water we have to study about it because water, I mean, many of the diseases are waterborne. So we'll just have a glance to the waterborne diseases also. So objectives to study about all these water sources, its purification, waterborne disease, and also about the water supply in rural and urban states of Malaysia. So, a general introduction about water. Much of the ill health which affects humanity, especially in the developing countries, can be traced to lack of safe and wholesome water supply. Because of this water related diseases, I can see a lot of mortality happens, especially among the infants. And that is mostly seen in the developing countries. There can be no state of positive health or well being without safe water. What is very important environmental factor because it is the basis, it is required for all forms of life. But not just that, it is very important or it plays a very important role in socio-economic development. And now that we can consider like in different way we can consider like for any human being or any living thing for their existence they need water and not only that there are many diseases that is being waterborne so health wise yes but this water is also required for agriculture so the food production the forestry the dam the irrigation so even the fishing so many things which is actually very important for the socio-economic development of the country we need very safe water for that so and not just that, if the people, if the water is not safe, it is contaminated, and if the people are drinking that, it is mostly, as I told, the mortality among the infants will be rising and the waterborne disease will be very common. So people, there will be high level of mortality and morbidity. So the human resources which is present inside a country will not be efficient also. Either they are dying or the morbidity rate is highly increased, which anyway is also going to affect the socioeconomic development. So water is that single form which is very important in the sustenance of the life and also the socioeconomic development of a country. So that is why in 1981, even in the year 1981, the 34th World Health Assembly, which was conducted in the year 1981, they considered that the safe drinking water is a basic element and it should be associated with primary health care, which is the key attainment of health for all by the year 2080. So it just shows the importance of water, the safe drinking water, the importance given by the World Health Assembly, even in the year 1981. So they attached at that time water to be a part of primary health care, which means even in India, I'm not sure about the health system exactly what is happening in Malaysia, but even I mean, just for an example, if I say you, in case in India, when we say about the primary health care that is happening in each village or each panchayat or the rural village, they do have some other associations in which there will be provision give taken that in that particular village even the water that is provided is hygienic enough or sanitized enough. So it was in 1981 the World Health Assembly who brought out that water should be considered as a basic element of this primary healthcare. Usually in primary healthcare, thing what the main thing that we think is okay, we are going to give only healthcare provisions only, but not it can be very according to the countries, okay. But in India, this one, the primary health care, the people who are having the responsibility of this healthcare health post, there are some associations, the government recognized associations, which will be taking care that in that particular village, even there is a provision of safe and wholesome water or safe drinking water. And this World Health Assembly, by associating or making water a basic element of primary health care, they told that it is the key for the attainment of health for all by the year 2080. This was brought about saying that health for all, like all the people should be able to acquire the treatment, um, or or they should be having a minimum health that will help them to sustain a very socially and economically productive life. That is the concept of health for all. And it was told that even in 1981, via this primary health care, by the year 2000 AD, they should achieve, or the world should achieve health for all. But even now, it has not happened. That is the but it was in the year 1981 where everything was connected water to the primary health care and primary health care as the means to attain health for all. Just indicating the importance given by WHO and the other United Nations for the supply of safe water to the health. That's the meaning of this sentence. More recently, even Millennium Development Goals included safe water and sanitation in the attainable goals. And now it is not just the Millennium Development Goals. We have gone through that, and now it is the SDG or Sustainable Development Goal that is going on. So over here, we use the term safe and wholesome water supply. Now, what is the definition of do we mean when we use this term safe and wholesome water supply? So, water intended for human consumption should be both safe and wholesome. And what we mean when we use that term, the water should be free from pathogenic agents. The water should be free from harmful chemical substance. Water should be pleasant to taste. That is, it should be free from any color, odor, and also it should be useful for domestic purposes. So four criteria should be fulfilled, then only we can call that water as safe and wholesome. It should be free from pathogenic agents, it should be free from chemical substance, it should be palatable, it should be odor free, It should be color or turbid free, pleasant to taste, and also usable for domestic purpose like for cooking, etc. Cooking, drinking. Water is said to be polluted or contaminated when it does not fulfill the above criteria. Water requirement, this one we know that uh, physiologically we say that every adult human being should at least consume 2 liters per head per day. But however, depends upon climate conditions, standard of living, and habits of the people. A daily supply of 150 to 200 liters per capita is considered as an adequate supply to meet the needs for all urban domestic purpose. So, for drinking purpose, we say 2 liters per person. But if it is to include the whole need of a human being per capita or per person or per head, if we are going to calculate per day in a urban area, not for the industrial or other purposes, but for domestic purpose. So in a urban domestic living, or a person who is living in a urban area, for his domestic purpose, per day he require 150 to 200 liters minimum, and that actually indicates the amount of water he requires for all his purposes, including washing, bathing, drinking, washing their dishes, whatever be the purpose, per person 150 to 200 liters should be given per day to meet the needs of urban domestic purposes. Then uses of water, it can be what domestic use for the public purpose, industrial purpose, agricultural purpose, power production, to carry our waste. So the domestic use including drinking, cooking, washing, bathing, flushing toilets, gardening. Public purpose for cleaning street, recreational purposes like swimming pools, public fountains, ornamental ponds. For fire protection, you know how much liters of water will be required, and for public parks. The industrial purposes for the processing and cooling purpose, agricultural purpose, the irrigation, power production, the hydropower, steam power, and also to carry away the waste. So water is an essential factor in the economic, social, and cultural development of a community. It can eliminate disease, promote rural development, and improve the quality of life, provided, as we told, it is safe and wholesome. But if it is contaminated, it itself can act as a killer. Then sources of water supply. In general, when we call something as a water source, it should fulfill two criteria. One is regarding the quantity and another is regarding the quality. So the quantity of that particular water source, whatever we are calling as the source of water, the quantity should be perennial, like it should be able to meet the present and also future requirement. The quality of the water that we are getting from that particular source should be acceptable. So only when this criteria regarding the quantity and the quality of water is satisfied, then only we call it a particular source as a source of water. So accordingly, there are three main sources of water. The first one is the rain, which is the primary source of all water. Then we have the surface water, and then the third one we have the groundwater. So under surface water, we have impounding reservoirs, which are artificial masonry things that is being constructed, or in other words, what we call as dams. Then river and streams and tanks, ponds and lakes, etc. So something that is present on the surface level, that is the surface water. And then we have the water that is present underneath the ground level. So mainly the groundwater is given by the wells. So we have two types of well, the shallow wells and also deep well. As the name indicating, the shallow wells will only be going to a little deeper level under the ground, not much deeper, but the deep wells will be going so deep into the ground. We need special machinery to dig that deep well. And then we have the springs also. So these are the main sources of water supply, the rain, surface water, and groundwater. So we start with rain. It is the prime source of all water. Even when we say the surface water or the groundwater, though we classify these things, we know ultimately, even if it is a dam, river, stream, whatever, the water ultimately that is being collected on all these things is coming from the rain. So the primary source of all water will be the rain. A part of the rainwater sinks into the ground to form the groundwater. Part of it evaporates back into the atmosphere, which again falls down as rain. And some run off to form streams and rivers, which ultimately flow into the sea. The characteristic rainwater is the purest water in nature, provided it is coming in from an environment which the environment is also clean. If the environment is also clean, then the rainwater is the purest form. Physically, it is clear, bright, and sparkling, and it is very soft water containing only traces of dissolved solids like 0.0005 percentage. Only that much dissolved solids are there. It is very, very soft water. And because it is very soft, it can be corrosive action on lead pipes. Bacteriologically, rainwater, if it is moving via an environment free of suspended organisms or cleaner districts, it is free from pathogenic agents. But if it is coming via or if it is falling over a very polluted city, then even the rainwater is not safe. So impurity, rainwater tends to become impure, though it is the purest water when it is falling down from the clouds. But as it moves from via the different layers of the atmospheric strata, and depending upon the area where it is being falling, it becomes impure. It picks up suspended impurities from the atmosphere, such as dust, soot, and microorganisms, and also gases such as carbon dioxide, nitrogen, oxygen, ammonia, sulfur, etc. And if it is these chemicals that is getting dissolved in that rainwater, as we saw on one of the previous slides, it will be resulting in acid rain also. And this will be having serious impact on surface water quality and also on the plants. There are very few places in the world, like Gibraltar, where, which depend upon rain as a source of water supply. You can expect a MCQ. So Gibraltar is a country in which the source of water supply is actually the rain, or purely rain. So what we see is, though rain is the purest form of water, and we do have many measures to harvest rainwater in the small scale level within the household and also in the large scale level. But this is very soft in nature, pure also. But provided the environment through which it passes also is also very clean. Otherwise, it is very dangerous. The surface water, as we told already, it is originating from rainwater. Examples of surface water include river, tanks, lakes, man-made reservoirs, and also seawater. Surface water is prone to contamination, of course. Rivers, streams, even dams. We tend to go swim over there, bathing over there, washing over there. So it is prone to contamination from human and animal sources. Hence, it is never safe for human consumption unless subjected to sanitary protection and purification before use. So we can use river water, stream water, or whatever, but before to use before using that, we should subject that water for a sanitary and also purification process. Then starting with the first type of surface water, that is the impounding reservoirs. So these are artificial lakes constructed usually of earthwork or masonry in which large quantities of surface water is stored. That is the classical definition, or in other words, impounding reservoirs could also be dams that is built across rivers and mountain streams, also provide large reserves of surface water. So the area from which the water is being drained into the dams, it is called as the catchment area. The area draining into the reservoir is called catchment area. A good question for MCQ. So from where the water is flowing, That area is called as the catchment area. One disadvantage of storing water for long periods in reservoirs is the growth of algae and other microscopic organisms, which impart bad taste and odors to water. Because in dams and all, we know that a large quantity of water is being accumulated, it's stored over there, and the problem with that for drinking purpose is that the growth of algae and other microscopic organisms. So the water is having a bad taste, and also, as we say, now it is the pathogenic organisms that is present, so the water is not safe or wholesome, it is polluted or contaminated. But the main purpose, actually, we store water in these reservoirs more than the drinking purpose. It can be used for drinking purpose, obviously it is being used, but after purification. But the main purpose is to use it for electricity production. So that's why they are accumulating that water in such a large quantity. The characteristic of this water in the impounding reservoirs or the dams, it is very clear, palatable, and ranks next to rainwater in purity. The water is usually soft and considered to be free of pathogenic organisms. But still, because though we say the water is clear, palatable, and next to rainwater, it doesn't mean that it is as pure or anything. It depends on the catchment area or from the area where the water is coming from or being collected to. It depends upon the hygiene or the sanitation of that catchment area. We could say how much safe the water is. Like a river or a stream, uh, usually people will be going on the river banks or near to the streams and do some ablutions or kind of some entertainment, swimming, blah 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 things. But in the impounding reservoirs or the dams, it is those areas are very much security bound. It is not easy for people to go into to that dam area, the exact dam area. I mean, we can go nearby to that uh, area where the water is being drained, but not the exact collection where the water is there. No human beings, unless you encroach the place, it is not easy to go there. So, in that manner, we can say it is somewhat safe because the human contact is very less. However, we can't say that it is very safe also because it depends what is on the upland area or the catchment area from where the water is coming. So the upland surface water derive its impurities from the catchment area. So in the catchment area, or where the from water is draining to dams, if the water in that catchment area, if that is not hygiene, or there is a human dwelling over there, then this water is not safe. So this catchment area, the sources, there can be impurities. If the impurities are present in the catchment area, then this water is not safe. Especially, there can be impurities coming from the human dwellings or animal keeping or grazing. But then there is a general belief that if it is mountain streams, then the water will be very pure. But that is also often untrue. So in that area, if it is coming from the mountain, the water is coming directly from the mountain, we tend to believe, okay, there are no human beings, there are no domestic animals. So it should be free from pathogenic organisms or anything or any contamination. But that's also not true because in that mountain area, there can be the presence of wild animals. Human dwellings are not the domestic animals are not the, but wild animals could be the. So a contamination of wild animals is also possible. So if the water has been contaminated from that catchment area and then drained to this dam or the impounding reservoirs, then the water is already contaminated. But the thing is, why we say in the characteristic it is generally free, because once it is getting collected in that impounding reservoir, it is much protected, encroachment is not allowed, then the human dealings or human contact with that water is reduced. But we can't guarantee the same thing had happened in the catchment area. It can be the human or the domestic animals or even the wild animals can pollute the water. However, still somewhat when we are going through other sources of water, we'll see that impounding reservoirs are somewhat safer. But the safest is yet to come. Which water is safest to use? It's yet to come. Rivers and streams, as we told, it is never a safe water. The rivers furnish a dependable supply of water. So the quantity, what we told the water source, the quantity and the quality. Quantity in some cases, but there are rivers that which will get dry off in summer season, depending upon the geographical area. But mostly rivers, they have a dependable supply of water all throughout the year. But the river water is turbid during rainy season, and it may be clear in other seasons. Clarity of water in a river is no guarantee that the river water is safe for drinking. Earlier only we told the presence of that cyclops. In case when if a water body is infested with the cyclops, which can cause dracunculiasis or the Diphyllobothrium lata or the fish type 1 disease, we will see the water is so clear, so sparkling. But that doesn't mean the river water that it is safe for drinking. River water will be containing all the dissolved and suspended impurities. The bacterial count, including human intestinal organisms, may be very high. Why means, when people go for swimming in river, they may tend to pass urine or even defecate near to the water bank or the river bank area. So the water will be always having some or the other kind of impurities, but even the bacterial count, that is especially the human intestinal organisms, all the parasites is over, exist, everything will be present in the rivers and streams. So the impurities of the river water is derived from surface washing. Like if we are going to do the human people dwellings, people living near to the river, if they are going to do any washing of their clothes, their dishes, the sewage and sullage water. Sewage and sullage water means the domestic water, or the water that has been disposed after domestic uses. And there is a difference actually. I have noted it as a comment actually. So when you go through the PPT, you will see that comment. Now it is in the reading mode, that is why you can't see it. So the sewage means that domestic water, the used water, the domestic dirty water, it will be mixed with fecal or urine of the human beings or even the domestic animals. But if that domestic water is free of fecal matter or the urinary matter, urine, then it is called as sullage. So remember that for MCQ, sewage and sullage. Sewage means the domestic waste water. Along with that, there is presence of feces or urine. And sullage water means there is only domestic water or domestic waste water, but no presence of feces or urine. So the impurities which is present in the river water will be coming from the washings, sewage and sullage water, the industrial and trade waste. There will be pipes connected from certain industries directly to the rivers. Actually, it is not advised. When we do the next chapter, conservancy, we will see how actually the industrial waste have to be treated and then connected. And especially, even if that is to be connected, it is advised to connect to the sea water actually, not in the rivers, never on the rivers. But we know that in some part of the world, it is easily possible that some of the other industries or factories will be having their outlet pipe directly entering to some part of the river, and they're throwing out their waste water, whatever, from the industries, the trade waste to the rivers, and also drainage from the agricultural areas. The customs and habits of the people, like bathing, animal washing, and disposal of the dead, all add to the pollution of water. The river water can be as turbid like this during a rainy season or clear like this. But it is clear, sparkling doesn't mean it is free of contamination or it is safe to use. Then there is some kind of purification that is happening in case of river water, because and that we can call as self purification, but still it is not enough. So what are the self purification that is seen in a river water? There is much dilution because the water is continuously flowing. There can be sedimentation. uh, for a longer time, water will may be collected for some time, that the heavier solids can be getting settled down. Aeration, because the oxygen or water or the wind is moving along, so there will be some oxygen supply. Oxidation can happen. Oxidation mainly because of certain microorganisms that is present over there. They can do this oxidation process, by which the organic waste will be getting easily broken down. The effect of sunlight, the plant and animal life, they can do some kind of purification. By that is actually by natural process, we are not doing that particular purification process. Later in this slides you will see that the purification process, mainly the slow sand filter and rapid sand filter, we'll see that in coming up slides. So we'll see some basic principles of these, the dilution, sedimentation, aeration, oxidation, and even sunlight being used for the water purification process. But this is not enough. This is not enough to render the water potable. River water needs purification before it can be used for drinking purpose. So some kind of self purification is happening. All these processes are happening in case of river water, but it is not sufficient. We need to do some special treatment for river water or the stream water before we are using it for drinking purpose. And Malaysia receives abundant rainfall, averaging 3,000 millimeter annually previously. That contributes to an estimated annual water resource of some 900 billion cubic meters. I don't have to remember all these things, just to show you. About 97% of our raw water supply for agricultural, domestic, and industrial needs are derived from surface water sources, primarily rivers. So 97% of the needs of Malaysia for the agriculture, domestic, and industrial, it is coming from the rivers, because Malaysia being receiving abundant rainfall, averaging 3,000 millimeter annually. Malaysia has 189 river basins, 89 in Peninsular Malaysia, 78 in Sabah, and 22 in Sarawak. All the rivers originate and flow from the highlands. Okay, so we'll stop over here. Thanks, we'll do in the next class. One second, I'm stopping the recording.